Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. This time, we're going to continue from our last video, video 14, and discuss computer vision, how to use this icon. If you remember, we stopped here. And the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is collapse this, all the stuff you did in the last video where we talked about the app and web recorder. Right click on it and disable activity because we're done with that. We've talked about the web recorder or the app recorder, and we practiced how it worked in the real world. And because I don't want you to mix the two of them up, I want you to just disable it. When we're done with this, you just have to right click on that and enable it again, and it will work just fine. But for purposes of this demonstration, I want it out of the way. Okay? And so it's almost like this is empty again, because if you press play, nothing is going to happen. We've disabled whatever we built there. Now, the app and web recorder is very similar to, I'm sorry, the computer vision icon is very similar to the app and web recorder. Like I said, it actually, it's a bit more advanced in that when you're dealing with cloud-based applications that are not on your desktop, it's a bit difficult to train this automation software to recognize the elements, right? And so computer vision is sort of like an artificial intelligence enabled element finder. So in simple terms, you might say you click on whatever it is, the entire screen you're trying to automate, and it just sort of reads everything on that screen into its memory and stores it like, okay, I can see what is on this screen. Then you now go through the process of telling it that, okay, if this is what I want to click on. And then from its memory, it now brings out, okay, this is what I remember this as. And this is how, in my own way, I want to interact with it. And I'll show you what that looks like. So the first thing you want to do is have this open to our agreed, oh, I'm sorry. That would be the Google. And we navigate to that website, to that URL I provided you. Data-entry-automation at eWorkshop, and you navigate there. So you want to make sure you're on this screen. That's really important. And so the thing about this type of interaction is you want to make sure that everything that you wanted to see is visible. So you will notice that I scroll down because I don't really need it to interact with anything like this logo, workshop, home, about, blog. It doesn't really have any usefulness in my automation. And because these are available, I can't really see the whole screen. So I'm going to take those out of the way. I definitely need it to see everything inside this white box. So I want to navigate to that, because what it does is that it kind of takes a screenshot of this screen and then kind of assigns a location and name to everything. And then you're going to tell it, okay, this is what I'm interested in on this screen, right? For example, we're not interested in this data entry automation, but it's going to keep it anyway, right? We're not interested in any of this text here, but it's going to keep it anyway. So you're going to have to tell it that, no, out of everything you've stored in your brain, I'm interested in checking this box, for example. I'm interested in typing my first name in here. And we're going to do that together. Okay? So you want to click the computer vision icon. And then once that's open, you click record. So that's 2 steps, a bit different from the first one. And then you hit that. Then it kind of reads everything, takes a few moments to store everything in its brain. Okay? So it's done that now. But it's like, okay, now I have a picture of this screen in my brain. What exactly do you want, right? So you hover, very similarly to what we did in the last class. You hover there and you click that. And it understands already, because it stored it in its brain, that this is definitely one of those places you type into. So what do you want to type into? I would say make sure this empty field is checked. And again, I'm going to put my name. And then when you're done, this is different in that you have to click enter, right? So you do the same thing for last name. As you can see, it wrote what I asked it to write. So I click on this, next box. It's a bit faster in recognizing the elements because, like I said, it's already stored in its memory. So same thing, you hit empty field, you put your last name or whatever it is, the data you want to enter there. And then you hit enter, and it's going to practice and get it right. Good. So you do the same thing for phone now. Now, if you're like me, if you do this, this is wrong. Make sure it gets the whole box, right? When you get this, you hit that, and then it understands also that it's also a type into field. Again, we put in the same number that's written on the screen, 201-555-0123, and then we hit enter. And then lastly, after it practices that, we do the same thing for email. I'm sorry, you make sure it's green, and then I'm going to put that ydaramola@ymail.com. Make sure this is checked. Come back here and then enter. So it's going to practice. That worked fine. So now we go to this checkbox. Make sure that it's green. We hit it. And you see it understands that you have to check it, right? Great. So we don't have to worry about it. And the same thing, submit. Try not to hit on the text. Hit on the button itself. The black part, not the submit text. Just to be safe. So you hit that. And then it understands that, oh, you're submitting. So save and exit. Now, all of these other icons on this screen are useful, but I think that would be something to talk about much later in your education about this application. But many of them are self-explanatory. Get text, if you want to type into something, click relative. Some of these we talked about earlier on in the IDE discussion about the applications. And so I want to focus now on a simplified example. This stop recording is for, like, if you wanted to stop in the middle of what we were doing, you could do that. But in this case, we're just going to save and exit. All right, and you look here, you see that, wow, this is all set up, huh? Nice. So again, I would recommend that you name things properly, right? So I would, for example, say, type into first name, right? That's my recommendation to you. Type into last name, and so on and so forth, right? Not just the default name. Very important, because you're not the only one who's going to be working with these automations in the real world. So you want to always label things so that it doesn't take like a PhD to understand what you're trying to accomplish. Now imagine what it would look like if someone came and saw this. It doesn't look very intuitive. So it's very helpful when you take the time to label your activities properly. So it understands that you want to type all these things in and hit submit, right? So now that we've done that, what you want to do before you start this automation is maybe just refresh the screen so it goes back to that initial table. Like I said, it's very important that the screen is, you scroll down to the area of the screen that you want to use. Because again, if you do this, it's not going to find like anything below email and could cause problems, right? Some of the subtle differences between the app and web recorder and CV, computer vision, I'm not calling it CV, is that, it's expecting to see a certain screenshot. And if it's not seeing that, it's going to cause problems. Okay. So that's a subtle difference. And why it's like that is that it needs to have very specific locational elements to work with. It's not as flexible as the other one. Okay. So if you, for example, scroll too far out, it's going to fail because it's not seeing what it's expecting to see. Very important difference. In fact, maybe the major thing you want to take note of. So now that we are back here, you've got to make sure the browser is open. You can't do this if the screen doesn't look like this, or if the screen is not, the same as what you spied earlier. And you can't do this if you basically have to make sure that it's exactly what you screenshotted, you make sure that it's always like that. Otherwise, there's a risk of failure. Okay. So having done that, you can save your work and then just click debug to see how well it works. So you will notice that it's a lot slower because it's taking its time to check. And then when it makes sure that it's there, it does the work. It even types slower, right? Because it's, very heavily enhanced by AI. And typically you use it as a last resort if, the regular way does not work. The regular way mean you, for example, using the Apple web recorder or actually manually building the automation, which I'll show you an example of at some time in the future. So as you can see, it worked fine. And if you can do that, then you understand the basics of how to use computer vision. Naturally, it could get a lot more complicated than this, but this should give you enough confidence to feel comfortable using the command during your practitioner days when you finally become an expert. So I encourage you to practice this, make sure you get it right, and then you'll be ready to deal with more complicated issues accordingly. All right. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next class. Bye.